B.B. Anderson, The Woman That You Are. This is Wild Strawberries.
Hey everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to Seen and Heard. It's the podcast all about the Sight and Sound Top 100 Greatest Films of All Time list. I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we're back on the Sight and Sound list this week, like we were last week. Ping-ponging our way towards the center. What number is this on the list?
Number 63 on the 2012 list and number 108 on the 2022 list.
Wow, so it dropped off the top 100 for the new list.
Can I tell you a secret that you're going to get really mad at?
What?
On the 2022 list, the only Bergman film in the top 100 is Persona.
Oh my God.
Isn't that nuts?
So this fell off, Seventh
Fanny
Seal
and
fell off, and
Alexander.
oh my God.
They're all past 100.
Oh my God.
Isn't that nuts?
Yes.
Like, I feel like Seventh Seal of all of them is like,
Who needs
that's
to
the
be spanked for
craziest.
this?
I don't know.
Get in touch.
The critics.
Yes, that's true. It's the critics. Yeah. This is Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of strawberries, there's another fruit that comes to mind. Apples. And in particular, Apple Music.
Apple Podcasts. Yeah, listen, we are a small show. We've been doing this for a couple of years now, but we're a small show. And if any of you are listening on Apple Podcasts, which is still, I guess, considered sort of the number one podcast platform, it would be you'd be doing us a huge favor by just reviewing the show on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah. Only if you like us, though.
Oh, yeah, only if you like us. The more reviews we get, the bigger reach we have, the more people find out about the show. So you'd be doing us a huge favor by just rating, reviewing, all that good stuff on Apple Podcasts.
Please.
And we will be eternally grateful.
I'm begging you.
Jackie's begging. Well, Jackie, before we get into the film this week, what have you been watching?
I've been on a really good run.
I saw on Letterboxd.
You saw my run?
I see you've been logging some good stuff. Yeah.
I've been watching something good every single night.
Wow.
What did I watch? Oh, okay. Yeah, I remembered. So basically, I based my weekend off of what was leaving the channel, as I did last time when I watched The Devils, the Ken Russell film. Well, I watched another Ken Russell film. I think all his films were leaving the channel. The Boyfriend, which we were gonna do for s'mores, that I really wanted to, never got the chance. Now it was leaving, so I watched it. It is so good. Like,
Twiggy, right?
Yeah, I think this man knows how to make movies, is all I can
Does
say. He's so good. Like, where has he been all my life?
Isn't that great when you discover somebody like that and you just have their whole work to discuss? It's like,
does he have a lot of films?
Yeah.
He does?
Yeah.
I love it. It's a backstage musical, and what I like about it is that the whole musical, the whole movie is just one afternoon. It's one matinee performance. It's so good. It's really, really good.
I haven't seen it, but I have it on Blu-ray.
Oh, you should check it out. I think you'd really, really like it. Just
Yeah.
the way it's shot. The dancing is amazing.
It looks great from the clips I've seen. I was like, my God.
It's so good. I watched The Long Goodbye.
First time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. What'd you think?
Also Leaving.
Oh. The way that, whenever stuff's leaving the channel, you're like,
I gotta watch.
Honestly, in not a fun way. You're like,
It stresses
fuck.
me
It's like
out.
your heart sinks into
Yeah, I
your
don't
stomach.
like
You're
it.
like, oh God.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
So
you liked it?
I loved it. The movie.
So good. My God, it's so good.
It is so, so good. I haven't seen like a Robert Altman movie in so long. I feel like always a good time. You're always in good hands. That's just how I feel about him. Yeah, it was sad. It was really, I found myself very sad at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Which is surprising.
It's a dark movie.
It is dark, but like a quiet dark. Very quiet. I rewatched After Sun. I also watched Los Angeles Plays Itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's by Tom Anderson, who is a film critic and a teacher and a filmmaker himself. And the movie itself is about the appearance of Los Angeles in movies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really fascinating. I had a really good time with it. I thought, because it's like 3 hours long, I was like, okay, I'll watch like the first hour and then maybe watch the rest tomorrow. But I watched the whole thing.
Got sucked in.
Yeah, it's really good. And then last one is last night I watched Daddy Longlegs, the Safdie brothers movie.
So good.
It's so good.
Mhm.
Like it's like a Cassavetes movie.
It is like a Cassavetes movie. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I've seen it a couple times. I really like it.
Yeah. What about you?
This was not this last week. This was like last month, but I forgot. I just realized I never talked about it on the show because I did when it first came out was Nope, Jordan Peele's Nope. So when I first saw that, I did not like it.
I remember we talked about this.
I came on here and I said I didn't like it.
I remember.
But I also saw it on a plane and I saw it like I saw 5 other films on the same flight.
That's nuts.
It's coming from Italy. So I watched like 5 movies because I can't sleep on a plane.
Yeah.
So, it wasn't the best conditions. I didn't like it, but it stayed with me. So a couple years have passed. I watched it again and I really like it now.
Couple years? That was not a couple years ago.
It's in 2022.
Wow.
Yeah. It's really, really.
I love it. I think
really
it's great.
good. Yeah, I really like it. I was wrong.
Okay. Why did you just feel the need to tell us this now?
Because I just rewatched it.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
A couple others I saw. So I've been, of course, watching Hammer movies. I'll spare that. You know what I saw for the first time since maybe childhood was Pollyanna.
I don't know if I've seen that.
The Disney movie with Haley Mills. Oh, Jackie, I think you would love it. I liked it as a kid, but I also thought it was kind of boring. I'm rewatching it as an adult. Oh my God, it's so good.
It sounds so familiar.
It's Haley Mills, like Carl Malden's in it. Jane Wyman is in it. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. I love those those Disney movies from like the live action Disney from the 50s and 60s. Yeah, there's just like, Mary Poppins and The Parent Trap and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and all that stuff. Treasure Island. I love all that stuff.
I haven't seen this.
Honestly, watch Pollyanna. I think you'd really like it.
Wow.
It's like a proper
movie.
It's a proper movie. I saw a movie called Little Darlings for the first time. This is the film by Ronald F. Maxwell, but is a sort of coming of age summer camp movie with Tatum O'Neal and Christy McNichol. And the premise of the movie sounds kind of sleazy. It's like these 2 girls at summer camp are kind of in a race of like who can lose their virginity before the other person. And so it sounds kind of sleazy, but it's like it's written by 2 women and it's a very sensitive, like just a kind of exuberant movie. I really liked it. And of course it was made in like 1980. So it's like wall to wall, like pop songs and rock songs of the time. Like there's like John Lennon in there and there's like Blondie and it's like all these songs you'd have to pay so much more for now. But back in the day, you could just liberally use them in your movie. And I really liked it. It's a great summer camp movie. It's a great coming of age story. And it just treats the whole thing with a level of sensitivity that like I wasn't expecting.
Nice.
So I highly recommend Little Darlings. I actually heard of it because Tarantino's podcast talked about it. And yeah, it's really good.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's me.
That's a good run.
Yeah. I mean, I've been watching more. That's the highlights. A lot of Hammer horror and stuff. And I did the Meet the Parents trilogy with Molly because I'd seen Meet the Parents, of course. I loved it when it came out. And then all 3 of them were on Netflix and they were leaving at the end of the month. And so we're like, oh shit. So we like watched Little Fockers, which I don't think I'd seen since the theater. No, it's pretty good.
It's good. I like it.
And then neither of us had seen Little Fockers. And that one.
Wait, Meet the Fockers and then Little Fockers.
Yeah.
Was.
Meet the Fockers is the one where they go to Dustin Hoffman and Barbara Streisand's
house. Yes, so good. I love that.
That one's great. Little Fockers, though, with that one is terrible.
Yeah, I think I saw that when it came out in the theaters because it came out like
2010.
Yeah. I think
it's
I
terrible.
saw it.
It's really bad.
And they have kids, right?
Yeah.
Or it's their.
Yeah, they have kids. And it's all about Greg becoming Godfucker. Robert De Niro's like, I need you to be Godfucker. It's so stupid. It's so stupid.
To his own children?
Yeah, like basically the Robert De Niro character is like, oh, I'm getting old and someone else has to be the patriarch of this family. So it needs to be you, Greg. And then it's just about like Ben Stiller rising to the occasion.
But is Dustin Hoffman or Barbara Streisand and Dustin Hoffman in that one?
Barely. It's like they each shot for like a day or something. And then what the fuck? Harvey Keitel is in it as like this landscaper. He's like remodeling their backyard, but like he's in it for like 2 scenes and he has the scene with Robert De Niro, and it's this weird reunion of them, but like they're they barely have any lines with each other, and it's just this awkward, like, why the fuck did they cast Harvey Keitel in this like nothing role? It's just weird. I don't know.
Just like for the cameo of it all.
I guess, but
for the mean streets of it all.
I guess. Anyway.
Well, I'm sorry you ended on a low note when you were riding so high.
From Little Fockers to Bergman. From 1957, this is Ingmar Bergman's Wild Strawberries.
Wild Strawberries was released in 1957. It was written and directed by Ingmar Bergman, cinematography by Gunnar Fischer, and music by Erik Nordgren. 78-year-old doctor and professor Isak Borg is being honored for his lifetime achievement in his trade. He must travel from Stockholm to Lund, and instead of the planned plane ride, he insists on driving himself. He is accompanied by his daughter-in-law, Marianne, who came to stay with Isak after having marital problems with his son, Evald. Before and during the trip, Isak experiences nightmares and fantasies about his past and his insecurities about his old age. As they drive through the town where he used to spend his childhood summers, Isak vividly relives an afternoon spent with his cousins, particularly Sarah, whom he was in love with. Sarah would actually marry his brother Siegfried. Marianne and Isak pick up a group of young hitchhikers, a girl named Sarah, and the two boys fighting for her affections. After narrowly escaping an accident, Isak gives the couple whose car swerved off the road a ride. The couple is bitter and argues loudly in the car before Marianne kicks them out. They visit Isak's 96-year-old mother, who is cold to Marianne and complains that no one visits her. Isak dreams he is failing some kind of competence test and relives a time he saw his wife sleep with another man. Marianne reveals why she ran away from Stockholm. Evald, being the unwanted child of a sham marriage, is a pessimistic nihilist, and when Marianne tells him she's pregnant, he makes her choose between bringing a child into the world and him. The travelers reach Evald and Marianne's home in Lund. After the ceremony, the hitchhikers bid goodbye to Isak with a song outside his window. Evald tells his father he can't live without Marianne, and that they have reconciled. Finally, as he tries to fall asleep, Isak imagines he is back at the summer home, and Sarah takes him to a pond where his parents lie happily fishing together. As they wave to him, Isak is at peace. The film stars Victor Histrom as Dr. Isak Borg, Bibi Andersson as Sarah, both Isak's cousin and the hitchhiker, Ingrid Thulin as Marianne Borg, and Gunnar Bjornstrand as Evald Borg. The film also features Bergman regulars Max von Sydow as a gas station attendant, Henrik Ackerman, and Gunnel Lindblom as one of Isak's sisters, Charlotta. Bergman wrote the film while he was in the hospital being treated for exhaustion as well as a gastric problem. Seventh Seal. It's true.
Nice little detail there.
It's true. Because I feel like if I was just to say it was exhaustion, I'm painting this picture of him of which he was, like a tortured artist, but also he had a gastric problem.
But also, as we both know, making films is a truly exhausting process.
And this man made so many. So Seventh Seal, good springboard, Seventh Seal had been released earlier that year. Wild Strawberries was shot in the summer and released in December.
Wow.
Can you picture that?
No.
Seventh Seal comes out, he goes into the hospital, he writes this thing, he shoots this thing, he releases it all in the same year.
Imagine his New Year's Eve that year where he's reflecting on the year and he's like,
Seventh
this
Seal
year,
and Wild Strawberries came out. Can you imagine?
He's been a lazy bum.
Can you imagine? This man, his marriage was failing. Him and Bibi Andersson weren't doing well either. So his marriage and his affair were both falling apart. He wasn't getting along with his parents. People love to mention these things when talking about this movie. And I mean, it's important.
I think it's important context. Yeah.
There are many different stories from Bergman himself. He goes back and forth about whether Victor Histrom was the first choice for the role. Sometimes he says he was and he wrote it for him. And then sometimes he's like, oh no, I think this person recommended him. It's really weird. Of course, Hjostrom was a silent film director turned actor. He had mentored Bergman. He had acted in one of his films, To Joy, from 1950. He had one condition. He was already 78 years old. His health wasn't great. His only condition was that he wanted to be home every single day by 5 p.m. for his shot of whiskey. That was his only,
Honestly,
those were his terms.
every film set should operate that way.
I think it should too. Yeah. But it was actually really hard for him to shoot this film. He's in like every scene but one. And he had a hard time remembering the lines. And this would be his last film appearance before his death in 1960. Like, can you imagine a 78-year-old just like pushing through like that?
Yeah. I mean, today, 78's not that old.
I mean, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just think of like my grandpa who didn't even make it to 78. And I just can't even picture him. Like, I don't know.
It's when you get to that age, it's like two types of people. It's like either people who really seem older, or there's like people who are like seem so like 20 years younger.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
totally. The first nightmare he has was shot in an old part of Stockholm pre-dawn. So like old man had to wake up pre-dawn and shoot that scene.
He's probably used to doing that.
I mean, I guess. The summer house scenes, were filmed in the countryside, like near where Bergman grew up. The film opened to praise. It won the Golden Bear at Berlin. It was the 8th ever year of the festival. It was nominated for Best Screenplay at the 1960 Oscars. It won Best Foreign Film at the Golden Globes. It was among Stanley Kubrick's favorite films, Tarkovsky's favorite films. That's it.
Well, I think you definitely provided us with some good info.
My last thing to say is that, yes, I watched what's the thing they have on the Criterion where it's him sitting in his home theater talking about every movie.
Oh yeah.
In Bergman, that one, he says is when he talked about casting and when he said, oh, I wrote it with him in mind. But then I read somewhere else where it said like, actually he didn't. And he goes back and forth. Like he was notorious for going back and forth on this.
So he's a liar. No,
I don't know. But also in that video, he mentions that like Isak is very much his father.
Yeah.
Which would make him evolve, I guess. Which kind of makes sense.
Maybe there's pieces of it, but
sure.
I do tend to believe that he picked him, like he wrote it with him in mind because he was a big fan of his films, especially his film The Phantom Carriage. Have you ever seen that?
No.
So see, my whole time I've been calling him Sjostrom. Wait, say it again.
Hjostrom. That's what it said online. That's what I looked up how to pronounce.
No, I believe
Swedish.
you. Yeah.
And I'm probably not pronouncing it completely right, but
yeah. So The Phantom Carriage, like this film, is kind of Dickensian and about a guy kind of looking back on his life at death and stuff like that. So that's why it led to. I've always thought like, oh, he was totally in mind from day one, and
I think maybe what the issue and the reason for this discrepancy is because he didn't want to do it. So I don't even think maybe like at the start Bergman was like, it can't be him, so I'm not even going to think of him. And
maybe.
So
yeah.
I don't know. But initial thoughts
for Wild Strawberries. It's so funny. This month is so loaded with these classics. I don't remember the first time I saw this. It was probably 15 plus years ago. It was probably just after high school for me. And again, I think we talked about last week with like 400 Blows. I probably saw it a little after 400 Blows because again, the title Wild Strawberries is synonymous with art house cinema. And, so I saw it and I liked it. And I've liked it over the years. I'll be completely honest though. For me, I've issues with this film, and Bergman's one of my favorite filmmakers. It's far from my favorite of his. In fact, it's probably somewhere in the middle of his filmography for me. I know we both have the Criterion Bergman set, right? You have it?
Mm-hmm.
So when I got that, because it's curated in this special order where like it kind of jumps around, which honestly I appreciate, but I was like, I ignored that and I just went like chronologically. And Bergman's career starts strong early on, like in the 40s, but they're very kind of generic, and it takes a while for Bergman's voice to really come through. So by the time he hits the mid 50s or so, obviously he's in full swing here. So like this and Seven Seal, like yes, Bergman has arrived, his voice is here and everything. but I do think he has some bad habits here that he shed later. And I won't elaborate too much now. I'll save it. But I do think this film is overly expository. I do think this film is a little stagey and it's beautifully shot, like beautifully shot and paced, but I don't think the writing is so great. I do love the main performance. I think he's great in it. And I do love the sort of, the sentiment of the film. I mean, who can't relate to, like someone looking back and escaping into their memories. Like, I think the older I get, the more nostalgic I get. So it's like, I totally relate to that. And I get that, especially we see at the end of the film, he's just gotten this big award, but he's like thinking about his childhood. So I love all that about it, but I do think that it's a tad broad. Tad broad. And I think there are some characters here. Well, okay, so first of all, the exposition. Well, actually, I'll save it. But I'll just say I love the Dickensian sort of thing, but I have issues with this movie.
I think we're gonna agree on the issues. I think we've both before sitting down today have made it clear that it's not our favorite Bergman movie. But this time around I will say I liked it a lot more. And I do like it. I think it's a lovely film.
I do too, yeah.
Besides Smiles on a Summer Night, it's the happiest ending. Like, in terms of Bergman happy endings, I can't really think of another one besides this and that.
Well, even this is kind of bitter. It's tinged with some sadness.
Only if you think he dies, but I don't think he dies.
No, I don't think he dies, but I mean, he's kind of alone in life. And
he's like smiling peacefully after seeing his parents fish. It's pretty happy.
Yeah. It's also something that happened, 70 years before.
I also think this is such a good movie. It's a perfect movie to start your Bergman journey. I think this should be the first movie you see.
Oh, you think this should be number one?
Yeah.
It's funny, in the Bergman set, it's number 3. They curated it, so it's number 3. It's
got everything that he loves, almost to its detriment, because it's like, okay, like it's like him saying, like, okay, I gotta shoot my shot. Here's everything I'm interested in, like God and nihilism and psychology and death and marriage and sex. So, like, I think almost to the detriment, like you said, it's too broad. Yeah.
Well, not even that the themes are too broad, but I feel like dramatically it's too broad. Like,
interesting.
In the way it's written and acted.
But I will say the happy ending, it really delighted me. Like, seeing his parents fish like that, it really got to me.
Yeah.
I think my one issue, is just, I want more from the character, I think. I need him to be a little colder at the start. Yes. I think that's my main issue.
Yes.
Because
he's kind of warm already.
He's already so,
but everyone's like,
you're so cold and you're so bitter. I'm like, you are?
I know. I totally agree.
So that's my one big issue with it. But, there's so much to unpack here. And, like, it really is, I think at the end of the day, it's just about lost love. And I think that's really sad. And
lost love and lost time.
Lost,
and
like, tenderness.
Well, and also just the passage of time and how before you know it, he's been a doctor for 50 years and he's at the end of his life. He's in the last period of his life here and he's kind of wondering where all the time went. And
I think that's beautiful. And I think that's really lovely. But yeah. So those are my initial thoughts. But okay, so let's talk about it then. Like him.
Well, wait, so you think this is a good first Bergman? I mean, I don't think that's that far off. I would definitely recommend this over a lot of his, like, definitely over Seventh Seal, Persona. Although I think I still stand by Fanny and Alexander. Like, the only thing that's off-putting is the length on that.
And the color.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he did a lot of films in color.
Yeah, but like...
When you think Bergman, you think black and white?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
100%.
I mean, I feel like he switched to color in like the mid-60s or something, and then...
I know, but I
think of like Cries and Whispers and Fanny and Alexander and Autumn Sonata and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. So Passion of Anna.
Passion of Anna.
But I just think of him as black and white.
Huh, that's fair.
That's just in my mind.
Yeah.
Fanny and I don't think I would start with Fanny and Alexander. Fanny and Alexander, you have to know him before.
You think so?
A little bit. I think anyone, the average layman, could watch Fanny and Alexander and love it. But if you want to study movies and you want to learn about this guy and his filmography, I think that it's better to wait on Fanny and Alexander.
Margot's here again. She's rubbing up against the microphone. Okay, Margot.
These new mics.
Yeah. Can we just talk about the exposition really quick?
Let's do it.
So it's so funny. My friend just sent me, like a TikTok of like someone making fun of exposition in movies. And it's like two guys sitting down like, hey, Dad, remember our cousin that was in a car accident last year? Yes, son, I remember. Oh, and then it's like that. And literally this movie does that. Again, I know it's 1957, but like literally in the flashbacks or the daughter-in-law is like, remember a month ago when you said this, like in their car ride? And then in the flashback, it's like, hello, cousin. People start conversations like that. And it's just like, Bergman seems like he's in a rush to make everything as clear as possible, like all the relationships, which is weird because in some of his later stuff, I much prefer settling into a movie. Like, you don't know who everyone is initially. You don't know how they relate to each other. But as the film unfolds, you find out. Right. And I think it's the more natural approach. I hate like forced exposition. And I think this movie has too much of it.
Right. I agree with you.
Did it bug you?
Not in terms of the relationships, just in that, like I mentioned, like, okay, let's talk about like his character shift, right? It's subtle. I love subtlety. I love movies that are like, don't get me wrong, I love gentle movies where it's not a big shift in character, right? Yeah. Like I love that. But in this, my problem with it is the exposition is telling us that he's cold and mean and bad, but he's not. Like, we don't see any of that. So that's my problem with the exposition.
He has a twinkle in his eye from the first time we see him.
And it's like, cold, bitter old men don't welcome children hitchhikers with open arms. Don't take them to lunch. You know what I mean? Like, I need him to be grumpier at the start. Yeah. And not just talking about how he's grumpy. The car accident thing, like, he doesn't cuss them out or anything. Like, nothing. Hey, you want to ride? Get in.
The moment with the car accident is frankly absurd. Like, the other car flips over, like rolls over. It's this husband and wife. They get out and they're like, that was our fault. And then what's the line? He literally says, like, the murderers must introduce themselves. I'm like, now it's a fucking comedy? Like, it was just so tonally awkward. It was very tonally broad. I don't like that part.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But what I was saying from like him from the start and to the end, his development, it's like, okay, the maid and him fighting is like pure comedy. It's them arguing.
Yeah, it's like an old married couple. Like,
but he's not
gently
mean,
ribbing each other.
You know? And he's not, everyone calls him like this. I love it, but does it sell cold and unfeeling old man? No. He tells us, Marianne dislikes him. He says, like, you dislike me, but he's not that dislikable. Minus the whole like thing that he says about women shouldn't be allowed to be smoking cigarettes.
Oh yeah,
that's like the only thing he says, which is like annoying, honestly.
Yeah.
I guess the loan stuff, but she goes, you're utterly ruthless and never listen to anyone but yourself. He is.
You know what I mean? Totally agree.
And then he says, but the line you said about, do you remember what you said about last month? I have no respect for mental struggling. That's the line. I'm paraphrasing here, of course. Right. But he doesn't even remember saying that. Like, if he doubled down and stood his ground when she says that, remember when you said this a month ago? He goes, I don't remember saying that. But if he doubled down and said, like, that is what I stand by. Like, okay, then we have something here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And then they have all these resolutions, right, with the maid, because they're arguing at the start. And then at the end, he's like, we should be on a first name basis, which is so sweet. I love that. I think that's a great resolution. I think that's great character development. I just don't think their relationship at the start is bad enough to like warrant that. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. And also she's been with him for 40 years, she says, I think.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
And like he gives up the loan, right? Because Marianne says like, oh, this loan. And then at the end he gives it up.
He doesn't even get a chance to fully say he gives it up.
Exactly.
He's like, about the loan, and the son's like, oh, no. Yeah, you'll get your money. And then like, he never gets to say, don't worry about it.
To be clear, like I said, I love gentle movies without obvious character development. But this is a Christmas Carol story. And like, I want more if it's going to be a Christmas Carol story. Do you know what I mean?
Well, see, I agree with you. Like, I like that this movie, he's not Scrooge in the beginning.
He's not. And I don't need him to be Scrooge.
But he does need to be colder.
Like,
yes.
A little bit.
or people need to not be talking about him in this way as if he is this super cold person.
Yeah.
Because it feels so written. That part felt like a play where like, okay, before the play started, he was this character, but now we're seeing him in this slightly different shade. And I was like, but why now? Like, just this morning he woke up on the good side of the bed for the first time in 40 years.
Exactly.
Like, how?
Well, he wants to drive because he wants to like relive his childhood. So I guess that's making him soft. But like, yeah, those hitchhikers, like, come on in, kids.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, the resolution with them is just like, here's a beautiful song for you, Father Isaac.
You know
and
what?
It's like,
the hitchhikers, that doesn't do it for me.
it's touching. I think the song is touching at the end when he says, like, I'll remember. And of course, it's Sarah. So it's like pulling the Colonel Blimp thing with Deborah Carr and like,
yeah, I do
where
think
she's playing two characters. But
who are these like early 20-somethings? Or are they supposed to be like teenagers?
I think they're early 20s.
Who the fuck are these hitchhikers who just like serenade and pick flowers and sing
They're
little...
so nice. That's the thing. Like,
these people don't exist in the real world.
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe in Sweden in the 50s.
Probably.
But, I mean,
they seem like lovely people. I would be down to be friends with them.
they're too lovely, honestly. They're so lovely.
But they argue about God and fight each other.
Oh, wow. In a very
and then
respectful
recite
way.
poetry.
I feel like because they didn't feel real or tethered to any sort of reality, it was just another thing to kind of like on my checklist of like, too broad. These people don't feel real at all.
Yeah, but it's like
they're like a Greek chorus. Like
they are, but it's also because like the Sarah of his life is like, you know, torn between two guys, and then this Sarah too. So it's like a new chance to see this in like a different little bit.
Right?
But I think it's more just like, that's funny because I also knew a Sarah. And she also had two guys. And I was one of them.
But the thing
which one am I in this relationship? So like,
no,
and one of them wants to be a doctor, right? And one of them wants to be a priest.
A minister. The problem is that it's so spoken of. Like, it's not just like they're in the back seat. See, it should have been, first of all, they're too broad. They need to be dialed down. And then he should just look in the rearview mirror and kind of like maybe catch her glimpsing at both guys or something.
You're giving Bergman notes right now?
Yes, he needs to listen. I'm telegraphing this straight to his grave, but it's the fact that she then is like, which one should I pick? I'm like, oh my God, it's just too much. It's too much for me. It's too much. Like Bergman is subtler than that.
Yeah, he is. But this is 50s, and that's the thing. And
but Seventh Seal is subtler than this, and that was made before.
Yeah,
don't you think?
But it's a heavier topic. I don't know.
Both films are about death.
They are. But before we move on from this, can we just like, is Miss Agda trying to sleep with him at the end? His maid? Because she goes, you know where to find me if you need anything. And it like lingers.
Well,
she's trying to sleep with him.
Yeah, probably. Because there's the whole line in the beginning about how they might as well be married or something. And he's like, we're not married.
So she's like, you can't call me by my first name, but you can come and like fool around.
They've probably already been fooling around. Like, who are we kidding? Two older people who only have each other, you know.
Yes, so that's everything that I think is overexposed. That's everything that I think is like, okay, we need to see it and not hear about it.
Yeah.
But the moments where it works for me is like the dream where he sees his wife. I think that is like very
with the other guy.
effective.
Yeah.
Because of what the guy who is like the guy from the couple who's, I don't know, the guy conducting this test in the dream, he says like, some cherish a sweet and fading picture, but you recall this scene at any time. And it's like, oh, like this old man is recalling this scene of his wife. Like that makes sense to me. And that's like clear action almost. And then even she is saying it there, like he's cold as ice. And when she says that, it works for me because he actually saw that, right? He's not imagining this scene the way he's imagining like the Sarah stuff because he wasn't there for that Sarah stuff.
Yeah.
This is a memory of his, and she explains like, I'm gonna go home and he's gonna like pet me and say it's okay, but he's probably gonna do all that even though he saw this, and we know that he saw this, and so that makes it so effective.
Yeah.
Which I think is great.
That's a great scene.
Yeah, it's so good. But the flashback to Uncle Aaron's birthday, in a similar way that he was there and saw the scene of his wife, he wasn't present for this birthday, right? So he's imagining, and I like that young Isak is not there. It's not like an actor playing young Isak and he's like within them, you know? He's not there and he's imagining all this. And yeah, there's...
And I think too, that might explain why the celebrations are so jovial, maybe.
Yes,
almost to a cartoonish level, like
and
the twins being in sync and like what they're saying and
yes, exactly. And it allows for more exposition there, I think. Like it's him literally imagining what Sarah is saying about him.
Yeah.
So I think it allows for that. And it's also just different, right? It's not like in Christmas Carol when young Scrooge like sees himself, right?
Right.
He doesn't. He's not there.
Yeah. That's a good point. I never
which
thought
I
about
really
that.
like. It's unexpected, and I'm okay with them talking about his cold seriousness because he's not there. He knows they're talking about him though.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like that scene. Those work for me so much more than like the scenes of him just being old and people saying you're cold.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I do love the quiet scenes with just him where he's like wandering around the house by himself, or he's, you know, especially the end. Like I love all that stuff. But yeah, I think one of my main problems with this movie, and again, let me reiterate that I do like the movie, and it is a profound movie. Like it's very moving. In flashbacks and in present time, I feel like characters from the past sort of like spring to life like they're coming out of a pop-up book. It's almost like everyone's eager to join the story. And I think the movie almost needs like a theatrical framing device or something, because it's like Max von Sydow as the gas station attendant. He's like, hey, everyone's like, hey, I'm here. I'm on stage now. Do you know what I mean? Like, doesn't it feel that way? Of like, everyone's so happy to be introduced in the story. And even the way that, what's the young girl's name? The hitchhiker? Sarah. The way that she just kind of like is behind the tree.
Smoke a pipe.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going? It's like, what the fuck? It's just too cartoonish for me. It's because the movie is so kind of somber.
But I will say, Greg, you had a problem with the writing. Like, I think he's an amazing writer. Like, I think like, and in this movie, like, I think some of the dialogue is like extremely profound and funny too. Like,
well, yeah, sure, of course. But I still feel like
you think structurally,
well, and the overly expository stuff is like, I feel like almost unforgivable. If it was like from the 20s, I'd be like, okay, but like this is 1957.
Yeah. But I love when it's like young Sarah, like cousin Sarah, also cousin. Ooh.
Oh, but that was just, that was the thing
I love
back
when,
then.
Siegfried kisses her and she's like, you've made a bad woman of me. Well, almost. I never want to see you again, at least not until brunch. It's so good. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is super fun.
I wonder if all the kids turned out okay.
They all died.
Or like, what's the brother's name?
Siegfried?
Yeah.
Oh, Siegfried's kids.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder. But Isak it's important to note, he's the only living sibling. Like, as if he wasn't lonely enough, he's his only living sibling.
Right.
But his mom is alive.
Yeah. I was trying to do the math on that. If he's 78.
She had him when she was 18, right?
So that means the mom would be
she's
96.
That's what he says.
Oh God, she doesn't look 96 though. She looks like she's like 80. Yeah. She's like 80.
I mean, what can you do?
Yeah,
she
that's
does
true.
Look like she's 80.
That's not the movie's fault.
No, it's not. Let's talk about that first dream, because like even the first time I saw this, and even this time again, that dream strikes me a lot.
It's very much like we did Unchained Andalou on this. It's kind of like that Salvador Dali, Luis Buñuel kind of feel to it.
Totally. And it happens in the first 10 minutes of the movie, which I love so much.
Almost like first 5 minutes.
Yeah. And it's the way he plays with silence in that is so good. Yeah. Like the body falls, right? There's no sounds except footprints, and then like that footsteps, and then that weird body, which looks like it's like underwater almost, it falls. And then like the clock tower rings, and then there's like the slow approach of horses and the crash of the hearse, and then the wheel getting caught, and the music builds like when the hand is exposed. It's the sound in that scene is amazing.
I feel like that's something Bergman always was a master of. Yeah. And what makes him stick out from his contemporaries, right? Of like not having needless fucking music in the movie, like score accentuating every action.
Totally. And I love the clocks with no hands. Like it's just like that nightmare has stuck with me since the first time I ever saw it.
Oh yeah, it's striking.
And also, I mean, who hasn't? I think about this all the time. A hearse crashing.
You think about that all the time?
All the time.
In what context?
Driving down the 134, passing by Forest Lawn, seeing hearse cars and processions. And like, what the fuck would happen if one of these crashed?
I'm sure it's happened.
Exactly.
I was at Forest Lawn
that.
yesterday.
You were?
Yeah, I was.
Just for fun or for a funeral?
Yeah, no, for fun.
Jesus.
But what was I gonna say? Yeah, no, it's a very striking image, and of course, I mean, you know what's going to happen when he walks over to the casket. But it's like that great dream that so many people have.
Yeah,
and then the hands on the clock tying into the mother's, the watch or whatever that she has with the no hands on it, and yeah, it's a very, too. Have you seen Spellbound, the Hitchcock film?
No.
There's a whole dream sequence in that's like pretty elaborate. And it was all designed by Salvador Dali. So it definitely has that feel to it. But then you have later sequences, not to jump ahead. Let's go. But let's talk about the one where the husband and wife. First of all, oh my God, those people.
They're awful.
That is like painful. See, I love their stuff.
That's good.
Outside of their introduction where he's like, let the murderers introduce themselves. But Jesus, that's fucking
It's
bleak.
A good scene. I mean, Bergman knows how to write like couples fighting.
Jesus Christ.
And he's an expert.
Yeah. And the guy just like kind of trying to save face in front of these strangers, and the wife is just like not having any of it, and she's like hitting him, and he's like making a joke of it. And
fall.
My God, that's
It is painful. And I love that Marianne kicks them out.
Yeah, and no one protests or anything. Yeah,
they're
it's
just
like in the middle of nowhere.
She leaves them in the middle of nowhere. Sweet Marianne, who I love, but we'll talk about her in a bit.
So that dream sequence where
it's the couple, where it's like a weird competency test.
Yeah, that is like, I think anyone can relate to that. I mean, the whole thing about
it is so good.
So much of this film is it's relatable. You don't have to be a 78-year-old doctor.
But like, who hasn't dreamt of like failing a test?
Yeah, and just like you were not competent.
Yeah. And this patient is dead.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Like look through
starts laughing,
and the way it's done visually too. Like look through the microscope, and it's like you kind of see this shot of his eyes through his glasses, and it's kind of blurred. And he's like, I don't see anything, and he's like, no, it's right here. And then the way that he has some read gibberish, and it's like just the way it's handled is so good.
And the hitchhikers are in the class. They're like,
oh yeah, that's
seats.
right, yeah.
But it's so interesting that it's that couple, yeah. Because then he wakes up, right? And Marianne was like, I was thinking about that couple, like, and how like I don't want to be like them. And he was like, oh, I was thinking about them too.
And he saw his own marriage,
and he saw his own marriage in the same dream as he saw this couple.
Yeah,
which is just I mean, like, I think this movie gets dreams so right.
It does.
It gets it super, super right. It's like everything can kind of be real, but it also feels off.
Yeah.
Well, at least like, I mean, like the first one, I mean, I don't know about a body falling and like blood flowing out, but especially that one.
Don't you have that
the
dream every
competency
night?
Test. Yeah.
Every night you dream about a hearse crashing on the
I do.
On Forest Lawn Drive.
I do.
Or wait, sorry, Zoo Drive, is that what it's called?
Forest Lawn
Hollywood.
Drive. Yeah, Hollywood,
Okay,
I'm thinking. Because I'm on the 134.
Yeah, the 134.
I think about that all the time.
Yeah. That's so fun. I've never thought about that.
What do you do? What if it's bad? What if the coffin falls out? Like, that's...
Well, you drive safe. You hire good people to drive the hearses. And often the hearses are in like a processional.
They are, yeah. But everyone's behind them, not in front of them.
Is the hearse the very front?
It's the first.
Oh, well. I'm sure it's happened. Not to be too bleak, but I just went down this like YouTube rabbit hole last night of like... God. People touring mausoleums, and the mausoleums were like either abandoned or neglected. And you know how you see it's like the marble wall, and then everyone kind of has like a shelf with like their name on it on a plaque, and just like fluid leaking out of some of those. And it's like embalming fluid mixed with blood, mixed with decomposition fluids. Because there's a whole thing. Mausoleums are built so like the drainage, like there's drainage systems in there because when you decompose, you turn into liquid, and that all has to go somewhere. It can't just stay in the coffin. So there's a whole system they have for drainage. And also so you never smell it when you're in the mausoleum. You never smell death unless you're in a bad mausoleum. And so it's like watching these YouTube videos where like people went into them and it was like dripping out and... Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that.
Yeah, me and you and death are like...
Well, death is just a part of life. Wait, in what other ways? Just all the films we're covering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the way like I have this like weird fascination and fear, and I feel like yours is just like, I love it.
Oh, I'm just fascinated by it.
You're not scared
To die? I'm scared of dying. I'm scared of dying young.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm afraid of dying young, and I'm afraid of dying in a painful way. But other than that, like, I think the fact that I'm going to die someday makes my life richer. Like, if I knew I was going to live forever, what would that mean? Then every day is meaningless. But the fact that there's an expiration date, it makes it special. You don't think so?
Yeah, I know it does.
Like, I want to die. Like, if they came up if they came up with a cure someday,
Knock
like,
on wood.
oh, you can live forever, I'd be like, I don't want to live forever.
I wouldn't want that either.
Yeah, I want to die someday.
Well,
these are all the questions that Bergman
Speaking of, yeah,
asked
let's
himself.
talk about Evald. Let's talk about the son, who is like straight suicidal.
Yes. You're led to believe that Isaac is, that Evald is Isaac younger, because Marianne says, like, you guys are so similar and you guys talk the same and have the same beliefs. And so, yeah, that's totally the Bergman brooding character of like,
Sure.
Yeah, it doesn't really kind of nihilistic and
Sure, and that makes sense. And if that was Isaac younger, all of this makes sense. But like, it's just the fact that we never see Isaac even remotely like that.
Yeah.
At the start.
Yeah.
That's the issue, I think.
No, I agree.
But I think he's great, and I love Gunnar Bjornstrand. That's his name, right? I love him so much. He's one of my favorite
Winter
Bergman.
Light, right?
Yeah, he's one of my favorite Bergman players.
Yeah. True players, in the sense of, he really did have a cast of players that would come back, and
he did, yeah.
His rotating door of great actors.
I was trying to think of like who's my fave, and I can't pick.
Oh, come on.
Do you have one?
You can probably Max.
Is it?
Or Liv Ullmann.
I have a 3-way tie.
That's not allowed, but go ahead. I just did a 2-way.
It's Liv Ullmann, it's Bibi Andersson, it's Harriet Andersson. But Harriet Andersson is kind of that's not in any particular order, those three, but I will say I have a special place in my heart for Harriet. So maybe Harriet might be slightly above the other two.
Harriet is Summer with Monica?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And Through a Glass Darkly.
And Fanny and Alexander, she's the maid.
Fanny Alexander and Cries and Whispers. Like, she's just, every time I see her, I'm just like, I'm just floored.
You know, the thing too about Harriet is like the range that she plays.
She's
I think
incredible.
most of Bergman's characters do, but she really runs the gamut of like.
She's like a slutty maid in Smiles of Summer Night.
Right, yeah.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
I mean, she's funny in Monica too, but then you have her in Cries and Whispers and you're just like, dear God, like, you are not human in the best way possible.
Yeah. Erland Josephson is up there for me
Erland
too.
is, he is.
So Max isn't on
They're
your
all
3,
great.
huh? Max didn't make your top 3?
No, they got to be women. I'm just biased.
Well, wait. Oh, you picked 3 women. Okay, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
Of the men, yeah, I'd say Max is number 1.
Oh, is he? You'll grace him.
Of the men, he's number 1.
It's funny how minor his role is in this. And also,
I know, it's so funny.
And also the fact that this came out the same year as Seventh Seal.
And the fact that they all agreed to do this, like that that Max von Sydow agreed, I'll be in it for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's the appeal. They shot his scene in one day, I'm sure.
It's
one
afternoon.
Max, do you want to come down and do a
and he's like
a 2-page scene?
Sure.
And he's like, yeah. And especially because he gets to play this like jovial like gas station clerk.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, like, why did I ever leave? Like, maybe I shouldn't have ever left. And he's like, what do you mean? Maybe he should have stayed put.
Wait, what are we talking about?
The gas station scene.
Oh, when he tells Isaac, like...
Well, no, Isaac says, like, maybe... Because the whole time, the Max von Sydow character is like...
They're so happy to see him.
We love you, like, the gas is comped, like, you're such a great person. And then Isaac's like, maybe I should have never left.
Yeah.
And then Max is like,
Max serves his purpose,
serves his purpose.
But Evald, he's... What he says like, we all need to live according to our need. And she goes, what's your need? He goes, to be dead, stone dead.
Yeah.
Like, that's serious shit. He needs help.
Yeah, he does need help.
But then at the end, it's so sweet when he goes, like, when he's talking to his dad and Isaac goes like, oh, like, I forget how he says it. He goes like, oh, you can't be alone. You can't live alone. He goes, I can't live without her. But I think he says it twice, right? He goes, I can't live without her. And she goes, oh, you mean you can't be alone? He goes, no, I can't live without her. And it's so sweet. That part gets me every time.
Yeah, it's good.
But he's dark, and yeah, I wish I got some of that darkness in Isak.
Well, maybe you're supposed to just kind of put two and two together, and it's like whatever darkness you don't see in Isak, take it from Ewald, because this is where he was.
Yes,
as a young man.
And someone says some line somewhere. It's like, how do I even know he's my father? I think Ewald says it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
she apparently had flings.
Yeah, she had flings.
But then there's Marianne. Can we talk about the fact that she kicks that couple out is like so girl boss, but also like
a little fucked up.
No, I'm for it. I don't care. I think it's just so interesting that she's this very beautiful and like calm and like level-headed person, but she has this will in her and this mysteriousness, like she's gonna go back, and but she's so quiet, so you can't really tell what's going on in her brain, and then she like kicks these people out.
Well, I think with her too, there's kind of like a piece missing for me, because it's like,
I like it.
If she doesn't like Isak so much, why did she go and stay with them for a month?
She probably doesn't have any other family anywhere else, and she had to get out of town.
I guess.
But she's mysterious in like a warm way, which is what I like.
But if she's never felt anything for Isak,
that's what I mean.
It's like,
that's where I think the movie is. Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I think the movie's lacking. Is we're just hearing about how she doesn't like him, but like, can we see?
Yeah. And also, how is it just now that they're on the road together is everything her feelings about Isak coming out? Because he's so like, you feel what way? And it's like, so in the month that she was there, like, you guys never talked. Maybe she just kept to herself.
Maybe she was embarrassed of the maid to tell the maid, like, hey, in front of the maid, like, hey, I don't like you.
It's a little convenient of like, she starts on the drive, because the drive is the movie's framing device.
Yeah.
You know, Woody Allen remade this.
I'm not surprised. As what?
Deconstructing Harry. And it's been, I'm sure other people too. Just the structure of that.
Yeah.
The road trip to like getting an award or something has been done a couple times, but this is the first. I love the way, first of all, the look of the movie is just,
it is beautiful.
Impeccable.
I love it.
But I love the way that a lot of the outdoor sets in certain scenes they're on a soundstage, and at first you're like, why? Because it's not really the Bergman thing. But then when he does that thing where he dims the lights of everything, and then just like that. Isak is lit.
Yeah.
When he's like in the woods, and you're like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
And it's like
he does it in the car too when they bring him the flowers.
Yeah. Oh, that's like.
But you don't like theatrical stuff, I thought.
No, it's not that. See, that works for me. I just think I don't like the annoying theatrical stuff. That's like a subtler thing, maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
Theatrical, and that is the most theater thing ever. It's like all the lights going out except like the one on the star.
I mean, yeah, but it's like, I guess. And of course, in our past Bergman films, we talked about his origins in the theater and him coming from, that ultimately that's, you see it in all of his films. But I think the theatrical stuff in this movie with the exposition and like the characters who are like, look at us, we're on stage now, welcome. It's like, that's too much for me. But like the theatrical lighting, I'm down with.
Sure, yeah. I love that. Can we talk about in that dream where it's that competency test and he goes, what is the first thing a doctor should do? And he goes, ask forgiveness. Or like the answer is ultimately ask forgiveness. Isn't that so crazy? Like, what does that mean?
Is it because you've chosen a life of science over a life of God? Is that the spiritual part of himself wrestling with the scientific part? I don't know.
It could just also be a prelap for the next part where they're like, you've been accused. Like, is he supposed to ask for forgiveness for being guilty? Because he goes, you've been accused of guilt. You have to, like, is that what they're saying you have to ask forgiveness for? It's just like, it's one of those perfect, weird dream things.
Yeah.
Where it's like, it doesn't really make sense, but if you wanted to read into it, you could.
Yes.
Because it's just, yeah. Because when he said that, it was like, in my mind, I was like, oh, like, I don't know, take care of people. It's like, ask forgiveness.
Yeah.
Ooh.
God, yourself.
It's crazy.
Chef Boyardee.
Yeah, him too. Should we do sight and sound?
Yeah, let's do sight and sound. I have it combined, so if you have a sight.
I have so many sights.
Oh, God.
There's so many sights. sights.
Jackie, pick one.
I can't. I love Bergman so much. I think this movie is so good. I know we've been like talking about its faults, but it's just because everyone talks about its merits all the time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we both.
But I think it's
really
just,
like
I
this
love
movie.
watching this movie. Like, and I'll watch it. Like, if someone is like, "Oh, I want to watch this movie," I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
You know what I think it is? I think it's like because Bergman is Bergman and we know what he's capable of. It's like you can't help but be like, oh, Bergman, you're almost there here, and there's so much great stuff. But like, you see some stumbles that he kind of like got himself out of later in later films.
Yeah.
So it's
but
like,
I mean, visually, like it's just it's stunning. And I love the part where we didn't even talk about the mirror scene where the weird fantasy he has where she's like, look at yourself in the mirror, and she's like humiliating him.
Yeah.
That part's crazy.
Yeah.
And then she runs through the forest and that really cool like Bergman run, similar to what she did in Persona. But sight, okay, it's hard. I love when I think that's the same dream actually. He like spies in on the house or fantasy and he sees Sarah and Siegfried at the piano. What a beautiful shot.
It really is.
Like, it's just, I have such a soft spot for like couples at a piano.
Do you have a piano?
Yeah, but I don't play.
Oh, you should learn how to play.
I should, so someone can kiss my neck.
Exactly.
And then,
then you guys
so
could sit
cute.
at the piano together.
It'd be so nice.
Because there's that whole thing about 4-hand piano, 2 people.
Yeah. I want that. Anyway.
But you can't even play Heart and Soul?
No.
What the fuck?
I mean, I could play. I know how to read music, and I could.
Wait, for what? Like, what did you learn with?
Piano.
Oh, so you do know some piano.
Yeah, I mean, like some, but like I can't sit and play a song.
Oh, okay.
Maybe if I practiced. I'll do that for this explicit reason.
You should.
Go ahead.
I love that scene too because what I was just talking about, like you see them through the window and then all the lights inside dim.
Yes, it's so good.
And then you just see the reflection of the trees on the window instead of seeing them through it.
Oh, okay, so that's one. 2 is Marianne's face when they walk into the grandma's house or his mom. It's instead of showing us Isak greet his mom, it's just Marianne's face.
Oh yeah.
Like she like steps into the frame and her face is like saying a million things. And Ingrid Tulin, who I also love, like one of my favorite Bergman players too, like she's incredible, and I don't know, her face is saying so much in that scene and it's just beautiful. Like, I don't know, I love it. And then my last one is the car match cuts, which have stuck with me since the first time I saw that. Like, I remember watching it for the first time and be like, whoa, and still this time again.
Yeah.
And it happens twice. It's when the scene starts and it's when the scene ends, where it starts with Marianne and Isak, and then it's Marianne and Evald, and it's perfect, smooth match cut, like amazing.
It's almost like they filmed it at the same time and just swapped people out.
Perhaps. But it's
so
good.
effortless. Yeah.
So those are my sights.
Love it. Those are all stunning. My favorite sight and sound was almost the scene when they first arrive at his childhood, like summer home or whatever, and they get out of the car, and it's this beautifully framed shot. They're in the distance. They're walking up. You hear all these birds chirping, almost like a cuckoo sound, and it just looks so. It's like springtime, I think, in the movie. It's supposed to be spring. I get a spring vibe. I don't know, but it's just such a beautiful shot. But ultimately, my favorite sight and sound is the final scene.
Oh.
It's him, his face as he's looking in his memory of his parents.
It's so
fishing.
beautiful.
And then it fades. It does a cross dissolve into him laying in bed, and then you just hear the little bit of music over it too.
It is so nice.
We'll play it right now. Yeah, I mean, I think that final shot of his face when he's like looking out into the lake, like that's.
I love when he's looking out at the lake and his parents wave. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's that's the stuff that makes you like. I can forgive the shortcomings, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you?
I went darker. Yeah, it's the first dream It's like from when the body falls until the hearse like creaking. And then the music starts. We don't have to listen to all of it, but here's a snippet.
Yeah, it's great. It's really good.
It's just so good.
It's really, really eerie.
It's so eerie.
And just the power of what you can do with sound and image.
Yes.
That's cinema.
That's sight and sound.
Pauline. This is where we would normally do. No, I'm just kidding. I have Pauline. Pauline Kael. Here's what she had to say. I think you will be surprised.
Wow.
She says, Ingmar Bergman's first big popular success in the United States. It's a very uneven film. An eminent physician looks back over his life, which is tricked up with gothic effects and contrasts. There are resemblances to passages in Dead of Night and Dreyer's Vampire, and with peculiarly unconvincing flashbacks and over-explicit dialogue. It's a very lumpy odyssey. Yet who can forget Sjöström's face, or how do you pronounce? Sjöström's face, or the vicious, bickering couple who rasp at each other in the backseat of a car, or the large-scale mask of the beautiful Ingrid Thulin as the physician's unhappy daughter-in-law. Few movies give us such memorable, emotion-charged images. One can try to forget the irritations, the incredibly callow representations of youth, the cold, rigid sun, the disappointingly vacuous parts assigned Bibi Andersson as the two Sarahs, the expendable role of Nema Wistrand as the ancient mother. So she is on the exact same page as us. Like, she's like, it's uneven. There's stuff in here that's too much. But then what it gives you is like so generous and so real and unforgettable. Yeah. So yeah, totally.
I feel like when I'm old, I'm going to like rewatch this movie and just sob and be like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
See, I don't even need to get there yet. I'm already at that spot where I'm like watching this. I'm like,
And I'm going to text you wherever you are, wherever I am, and be like, take the episode down. I want to take it back.
Yeah. Letterboxd?
Yeah.
5 stars. I have finally found it. The film I cannot review. Any type of cohesive thought soon reduces me into a blubbering mess. All I feel is pure melancholy, and it reaches into the deepest depths of my soul while simultaneously enlightening my current self. This is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful film, and that's all I have.
Wow. Very, very deep. This is you. 4 stars. This film makes me want to die, but in a good way. That's you. That's what you said earlier.
So kill me. 4 stars. This is good because it's like a Christmas carol if the ghosts of your past were crippling loneliness and how you never got to marry your cousin.
I saved that one too. It's so funny. This one's great. 0.5 star. Absolute sad fest. Watch it only if you are on your deathbed. Sad fest.
See, we're talking about how it's one of Bergman's sweetest endings.
It's the nicest ending.
Well, it's not quite Fanny and Alexander nice, but
no, Fanny and Alexander is scary compared to this.
You're right.
Come on.
The very, very final thing. I forgot. 3 stars. A little too schematic, especially when compared to the rest of Bergman's already simple work. And aside from those dream sequences reminiscent of Unchained Andalou, there's really not much here to see. Try Persona instead. I mean, I get
do it all.
I get being a fan of Bergman's more radical work and not so much the more straightforward stuff. But also, how could you not just love it all? I love it all. Yeah.
I love Summer with Monica. I think Summer with Monica is like fantastic.
Oh, it's great.
It's so good. 4 stars. I did expect to cry, but I did not expect the 2 dudes in booty shorts dramatically squabbling over the existence of God atop a hill like it's a Shakespeare play.
Yes, exactly.
It is.
Exactly. 0.5 star. I didn't enjoy in general. I'm not a fan of incest. There were times that it wasn't bad to watch, but in the end, I didn't enjoy this movie. The cinematography was good, and that's why I'm giving it half a star. Also, you can't give a rating lower than half a star. I was very uncomfy, and also the man that was tormenting the wife in the car after the accident was not fun. Like,
I'm not a
okay.
fan of incest.
Incest. Also, read up on your Swedish history. I don't know, like, this is what people did.
I wonder if they're first cousins or if they're just like second cousins.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or
maybe
like
they're.
first,
Yeah, I think they're probably
seems
first.
like first.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to enjoy the man and his wife in the car.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah. I mean, does that mean you can never show ugliness in films and that every film should be Paddington 2?
Some would say yes. That's the thing. That's what we have to come to accept about audiences. Some aren't. Yeah, some. Yeah. My mom never wants to see anything bad.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No. She likes exclusively Jane Austen adaptations.
I feel like sometimes bad things happen in those stories, though.
Yeah, but they always end pretty happy.
So as long as they have a happy ending.
Yeah, I'd say. And they're not like overly weird. Like she hates the piano. Because I was like, oh look, costume drama. Let's watch.
She hates it?
She detests it. She hates
I bet she hates Phantom Thread, right?
You know, funnily enough, she likes it.
What?
She likes. Doesn't hate, doesn't love, but she enjoys it because she loves like 50s Dior.
Oh.
So like.
See, I would think she would like the piano more than Phantom Thread.
No. She thinks it's weird as hell. She's like, I don't know. Like when she starts poisoning him, like, I don't know. Okay. She likes it.
Nice.
She doesn't hate it.
We should have her on for that episode.
Phantom Thread?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, this was Wild Strawberries. Do you have any parting thoughts?
I'd just like to state again for the record that I really like this movie.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes we need to reiterate that because our whole, the whole goal of the show is not to just come on here every week and be like, this movie is a masterpiece. It's revered by everyone and there's no flaws. And it's like both of us, we are like film is our lives and we're both pursuing it professionally too. So it's like, it is truly everything to us. So I think coming on here and just being honest about how it affects us. And so, yeah, sometimes it means coming on and talking about Wild Strawberries and its shortcomings, while also praising the stuff that it does right. So it's like, Don't get mad at us. Don't hate the haters because we're actually lovers. We're not haters. We love the movies. And if we're hating, it's only because we love.
Nice.
Right?
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, this is our last Bergman for the top 100 for the 2012 list.
I'm sad.
So we'll do more Bergman because once we open up to the 250s and the 2022 and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not on the 2022.
Personal prints.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, so probably our last Bergman for a little while, but not forever. Don't forget to leave us a glowing review on Apple Podcasts.
Please.
I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Special thanks to the patrons at our highest tier, John Pennington and Cynthia Fordwell. Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram @seenandheardpod.